The Bentley pulled away from the curb, its engine humming smoothly as it carried them into the heart of Victoria Island. The city glittered under the Lagos sun, glass towers rising above traffic and palm trees lining the busy streets. But inside the vehicle, silence settled thick between the two passengers. Jacob sat upright, unsure where to place his hands. His old, black bag sat tightly on his lap like a shield. He looked around the immaculate interior of the car, every polished surface, every scent of new leather feeling foreign. Occasionally, he glanced sideways at Monica, then quickly looked away. This morning, he had been invisible, an afterthought beneath the bridge, a man no one dared to see. Now, he sat beside Nigeria's most admired woman. He hadn't even asked why. He didn't have the strength. Monica, meanwhile, stole quiet glances at him when she thought he wouldn't notice. His eyes were bloodshot, not from emotion, at least not yet, but from years of smoke, sun, and survival. She wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Who are you? What happened to you? Where did you learn to speak like a data scientist? But not yet. He needed something else first. Just a quick stop, she said gently, not explaining further. Jacob only nodded. The car turned into a driveway bordered with manicured shrubs and parked in front of an upscale grooming salon. A marble sign above the entrance read, Kingsman Barber's Spa. Everything about the place radiated wealth. Crystal light fixtures through the glass, gold trim on the doors, mahogany frames on the windows. As soon as Monica stepped out, a young man in a white dress shirt opened the door for her and froze at the sight of Jacob stepping out behind her. He's with me, she said simply. That was all it took. Inside, some staff members exchanged uncertain glances. A few paused in confusion, seeing Jacob's disheveled appearance. But they moved. Monica didn't give room for hesitation. She turned to him. Let them take care of you, she said with a soft smile. I'll wait. For the next hour, Jacob sat quietly in a plush chair, his body stiff, while skilled hands moved around him. Clippers buzzed, warm water ran, towels were wrapped and unwrapped. His beard, thick and unruly, fell away in slow, careful strokes. His hair, overgrown and matted, was cut, shaped, and styled until the person staring back in the mirror began to resemble someone else, someone Jacob hadn't seen in years. His face emerged, a defined jawline, high cheekbones, dark eyes that still held fatigue, but behind it intelligence. Awareness. Something returning. He touched his face slowly. Sir, one of the barbers said, holding out a fresh set of clothes. Your outfit. A crisp white shirt, tailored black trousers, and polished loafers. None of it familiar, all of it terrifying. Jacob hesitated at the changing room door, then stepped inside. When he came out, the room hushed. Monica stood from the waiting couch and looked up. Her breath caught in her throat. Gone was the man from the roadside. In his place stood someone she hadn't even imagined. Clean, composed, visibly intelligent. The world would no longer ignore him. Now they would stare. She smiled warmly. That's the man I saw. Jacob looked at his own hands, then down at his shoes. I feel like I just came back to life, he said quietly. You haven't seen anything yet, Monica replied. They got back into the Bentley, and she drove again, this time toward home. When the car slowed in front of tall gates, Jacob frowned. This is your house? He asked cautiously. Monica smiled. No, it's our home now. The gates opened, revealing a sprawling white mansion wrapped in glass and greenery. Palm trees lined the stone driveway. A three-tier fountain sprayed arcs of water in the center courtyard. A golden retriever barked from the side garden, its tail wagging as it ran to the edge of the lawn. Jacob stepped out as if stepping into a dream, his shoes touching stone tiles he never thought he'd walk on. The mansion's interior smelled of vanilla and lavender. Every floor gleamed, every surface sparkled. Art from across the continent decorated the walls, pieces from Ghana, Egypt, South Africa. It was a blend of heritage and modern luxury. At the top of a grand staircase stood a little girl with curly hair, rubbing her sleepy eyes. Mommy? Who's that? She asked. Monica opened her arms. Sophia, come say hello. The girl ran down the stairs and wrapped herself around her mother's waist. Then she looked up at Jacob with wide, curious eyes. This is my friend, Monica said gently. His name is Jacob. He'll be spending a lot of time with us now. Sophia tilted her head. Are you a good person? She asked seriously. Jacob knelt down to her level, smiling for the first time in years. I'm trying to be, he said honestly. She nodded. Then you can stay. But no scary stories at night. He chuckled, an unfamiliar sound that surprised even him. That night, Monica gave him a guest room. It looked more like a hotel suite, soft bed, silk curtains, a view of the city skyline. She returned later with a tray of jollof rice, fried plantains, and spicy chicken. Jacob ate slowly, as if unsure it was real. Afterwards, he stepped onto the balcony, looking out at the world below. Monica joined him, carrying 2 glasses of red wine. She handed him one. Now, she said, tell me, who are you, Jacob? He stared into the glass for a long time before speaking. My name is Jacob Uche, he said. I used to be one of the best data scientists in Lagos. I worked with international firms, gave lectures, trained analysts. I built predictive models for banks, helped streamline operations for government agencies. I was respected. He paused. Monica listened, saying nothing. I had a wife, Cleety, 2 children, Amanda and Namdi. My parents lived with us. We were happy. His voice broke. Then, one December, we planned a family trip to Dubai. I had work that morning, so I stayed behind and promised to join them the next day. He swallowed hard. They never made it. The plane crashed. No survivors. Monica's eyes welled up. I lost everything in one day, Jacob whispered. After that, I didn't want anything. Not work. Not friends. Not food. I just walked away. I've been under that bridge ever since. Tears ran down Monica's cheeks now. I know that pain, she said softly. I lost my parents in a crash. And when Sophia was just 2, her father disappeared. One day he was there, and then he wasn't. Jacob looked at her in disbelief. You built all this after that? She nodded. I had to. For Sophia. And for me. He looked down. You're a fighter. She smiled through the tears. So are you. They sat in silence, sipping their wine, surrounded by the quiet hum of the city far below. And for the first time in years, Jacob didn't just feel alive. He wanted to live again. The next morning, Jacob awoke to a sound he hadn't heard in years, birdsong. Not the chaotic shouting of motorbikes under a bridge or the growl of early buses, but soft, melodic chirping just outside the window. Sunlight filtered gently through sheer curtains, casting golden patterns on the room's pristine white walls. There was no stench of garbage, no damp mattress beneath him, no hunger gnawing at his gut. For a few seconds, he lay still, confused. Was this a dream? Had he hallucinated the entire past 24 hours? Then he ran a hand across his freshly trimmed beard and felt the clean fabric of the pajamas Monica had left him. It was real. A knock at the door startled him from his thoughts. Come in, he called, his voice steadier than he expected. Sophia peeked in, wearing a pink robe and an enormous smile. Good morning, Mr. Jacob. Mommy says breakfast is ready. He smiled. Morning, Sophia. And you can just call me Uncle Jacob. She grinned wide, nodded, and skipped off down the hallway. Jacob exhaled, sat up, and stood. The floor was cool beneath his feet. He dressed in the clothes laid out for him and walked downstairs, still uncertain of how to carry himself in this world of silk, glass, and quiet luxury. Monica was already seated at the large dining table, dressed in a navy blue pantsuit, hair pulled back in a sleek twist. A laptop sat open beside her plate. Good morning, she greeted him, closing the laptop. Morning, he replied, easing into the seat across from her. The table was overflowing with eggs, sausages, fresh bread, pap, papaya slices, and orange juice. He hesitated. It's been a long time since I've seen food like this. Then eat, she said with a soft smile. You'll need the energy. He blinked. Are we going somewhere? Monica leaned back, folding her arms lightly. No, she said, her tone shifting slightly. You're starting work today. He nearly choked on a sip of juice. Work? She nodded. I didn't ask you to marry me out of pity, Jacob. I see a man whose mind has been gathering dust, not rust. An M-Tech could use someone like you. He stared at his plate, unsure how to respond. I haven't worked in years, he said slowly. I'm outdated. Behind. I probably can't even navigate the current platforms. Then we'll brush you up, Monica said. That brilliance doesn't disappear. It just needs reminding. He didn't reply, but something flickered in his eyes, something long buried. Later that day, they pulled up in front of Mteka's headquarters. a towering glass and steel building that shimmered in the sun like a monument to possibility. Inside, the space buzzed with quiet precision. Employees wore crisp, branded attire, their ID cards swinging from lanyards. Everyone moved with purpose. As Monica walked through the entrance, heads turned. People greeted her with respect and admiration. And then they noticed Jacob. Whispers rose softly. Is that her bodyguard? No, wait, who is he? But no one dared ask aloud. They took a private elevator to the executive floor. When the doors opened, Monica led Jacob to a corner office, spacious, sunlit, and fully equipped. 3 monitors were arranged across the desk, whiteboards lined the walls, already filled with charts and algorithms. A welcome card sat in the center of the table. Welcome, Mr. Yuk, head of data intelligence. Jacob froze. This is for me. Monica nodded. Starting today, this is your space. You'll be working directly under me. He stepped in slowly, running his fingers across the desk. It felt surreal, like opening a door to a locked part of himself. Are you sure? He asked. Absolutely. That first week was overwhelming. The software had evolved. New platforms, new languages, tools he'd never seen. But something else happened, too. His instincts returned. Old muscles reactivated. Data whispered to him like it always had. Patterns emerged. Flaws screamed out from dashboards others had missed. By the end of the week, Jacob had spotted inefficiencies in Tech's back-end processes that were costing the company millions annually. Monica observed quietly from her own office, watching him come alive. One afternoon, she walked in with a file and laid it on his desk. You just saved us 250 million naira in annual costs, she said simply. He blinked at her. I was just doing my job. That's exactly why it matters, she replied, smiling. Their eyes held for a moment longer than usual. Weeks turned to months. Jacob led the data team with calm confidence, introducing new systems, training junior analysts, and speaking at tech forums. His name began to circulate in industry circles again, this time not as a comeback story, but as a thought leader. His eyes, once hollow, now sparkled. His shoulders had lifted. He wore tailored suits, but his posture carried something more important, dignity. As for Monica, she changed too. She laughed more, smiled easier, worked fewer nights, ate more dinners with Sophia and Jacob on the balcony, under lantern light and the hum of Lagos traffic in the distance. One evening, as light rain tapped on the windows and thunder rumbled far off, Monica looked at Jacob across the table. Why did you say yes that day? She asked. He chuckled, sipping his wine. Honestly, I thought you'd lost your mind. She laughed. But, he continued, growing serious, there was something in your eyes. I didn't know what it was, maybe faith, maybe kindness, maybe insanity, but I needed it. I didn't believe you, not at first. That's why I asked you to kneel. To test me. He nodded. I wanted to know if you meant it, if you were serious. And now, he reached across the table, took her hand. Now I know you were an angel in disguise. Silence fell between them, but it wasn't empty. It was warm, full. A few weeks later, during a rooftop dinner at home, Jacob cleared his throat. Monica? Yes. He rose from his chair and reached into his jacket pocket. Then he knelt. Sophia gasped from her seat beside a house staffer at the door. Monica's breath caught. From the velvet box, Jacob produced a platinum ring. I didn't believe in love when you found me. I didn't believe in life, in healing, in second chances. But you gave them all to me. You brought me back to myself. He looked into her eyes. Now, I want to do it right. Monica Williams, will you marry me? Tears filled her eyes as she smiled. Yes, she whispered. Yes, 1,000 times. Sophia, now 6, clapped and jumped up and down. Staff applauded quietly from the doorway. Jacob slipped the ring onto Monica's finger and stood, wrapping her in an embrace. 2 months later, Lagos witnessed a wedding unlike any in recent memory. It wasn't the grandeur, though there was plenty of that. It wasn't the guest list, though dignitaries, celebrities, and tech moguls flew in from around the globe. It was the story. The billionaire who proposed to a homeless man. The man who became co-CEO of one of Africa's largest software firms. The miracle that followed grief. 3 years had quietly passed since Monica knelt on that dusty roadside outside Super Safe supermarket and asked a man most of the world had dismissed to be her husband. What began as a moment of madness had become one of Africa's most watched love stories, An internet-breaking tale retold in documentaries, panel talks, business magazines, and morning shows. But for Monica and Jacob, none of that really mattered. The applause had died down. What remained was peace. They had carved out a life together far from the noise. A life filled with quiet routines, shared goals, and something deeper than ambition: healing. Jacob, now co-CEO of M-Tech, sat beside Monica at the helm of a company that had become a continental powerhouse. Under his data-driven leadership and her bold vision, the company had expanded across West Africa, launching a suite of AI-powered tools that transformed hospitals, logistics systems, and financial networks alike. They were no longer just success stories. They were architects of impact. But behind the boardrooms and investor meetings, something even greater stirred within the walls of their home. Monica was pregnant. The news had come on a quiet Saturday morning, with sunlight slipping through the windows and the faint aroma of brewing coffee. The moment she saw the result, she didn't scream. She cried, not out of fear, but gratitude, a kind of silent, overflowing joy that had nowhere to go but through her tears. Sophia had grown into a bright 7-year-old with endless curiosity and a deep sense of empathy. And now, a new child would be part of the family, a new chapter, a new beginning. One afternoon, Monica stood barefoot in the kitchen, stirring a simmering pot of okra soup. Her anchor-print blouse stretched gently over her growing belly. Jacob walked in, caught in the doorway by the sight of her. He stood still, arms folded, watching her. "What?" she asked, laughing as she caught him staring. "Nothing," he said, walking over to wrap his arms around her from behind. "You just look like a dream I never thought I'd see again." She leaned back into him. "I thought the same thing." They kissed gently, and in that moment, the mansion, the world, the noise, all of it disappeared. 2 months later, their son was born. They named him Williams Chinedu, a name carrying the legacy of both families. Williams, in honor of Monica's parents. Chinedu, for Jacob's late father. As Monica cradled the baby in her arms, something deep within her settled. A wound she didn't even know she'd been carrying began to close. Jacob watched her from the chair beside the bed, holding her and the baby close. "This is the family I prayed for," she whispered. "And the one I never thought I deserved again," Jacob replied. Sophia took her role as big sister very seriously. She helped feed the baby, rocked him to sleep, and even attempted diaper duty, though she quickly abandoned that last task after a particularly messy incident. The house was alive again. Laughter echoed in hallways. Music returned to the rooms. The echo of trauma was replaced by joy, and even in stillness, the home pulsed with warmth. Years passed. Sophia grew into a remarkable young woman. At just 18, she graduated from the University of Nigeria as the youngest medical doctor in her cohort. Her graduation ceremony was held in a packed auditorium, with Jacob and Monica sitting proudly in the front row, cameras flashing as they beamed with pride. Sophia stood tall in her white lab coat, her stethoscope draped around her neck. Her speech, delivered without notes, moved the crowd to tears. After the ceremony, as friends and family gathered for photos, a tall, well-dressed young man approached her. His confidence was matched by a gentle demeanor. "Hi, I'm Oina," he said with a smile. "I saw your final year presentation on gene mapping. It was brilliant." Sophia blushed. "Thanks." From a few meters away, Monica raised an eyebrow while watching the exchange. Jacob chuckled softly. "She's growing up," he whispered. The connection between Sophia and Oina deepened quickly. What started as late-night discussions on medical data soon became movie hangouts, shared playlists, and long walks in the garden. Within 3 months, Oina visited the mansion with his parents to formally ask Monica and Jacob for permission to date Sophia. It was traditional. It was respectful. It was unexpected. Monica was impressed. Oina wasn't just any young man. He was the son of a respected federal judge and a rising star in biomedical engineering. 3 years later, during Sophia's 21st birthday party, he proposed. In front of close friends, family, and mentors, he knelt under fairy lights in the garden, holding a sapphire ring. Sophia's voice trembled with joy as she said, "Yes." Once again, Monica cried, but this time, only from happiness. The wedding was grand, hosted at Lagos's prestigious Eco Hotel. Royalty, business leaders, childhood friends, and tech giants filled the guest list. Sophia walked down the aisle in a sparkling ivory gown that shimmered like starlight. On either side of her, Monica and Jacob held her arms. As they approached the altar, Sophia whispered to them both, "Thank you for everything." Jacob smiled. "Make us proud." She already had. At the reception, Monica gave a heartfelt speech, but it was Jacob's toast that left the hall in stunned silence. He stood tall in a dark tuxedo, his voice calm and full of emotion. "Years ago," he began, "I lived under a bridge. I had lost everything, my family, my career, my purpose. I believed I had nothing left to give. I didn't want to live. But then, someone knelt in front of me." He turned to Monica. She didn't see a homeless man. She saw what I could still become. She reminded me that grace exists, that second chances are real, that sometimes love finds you when you've given up on yourself. He held his glass high. "Today, I get to stand beside the woman who gave me my life back, and I get to witness our daughter begin her own journey, with love, honor, and hope. My life has come full circle." Tears fell. Then applause thundered through the hall. 9 months after the wedding, the family gathered once again at the mansion, this time for something quieter, more intimate. Sophia had given birth to a baby girl. She lay in a hospital bed, glowing with exhaustion and joy. In her arms was the newest addition to the family, swaddled in pink. They named her Amarachi, God's grace. When Jacob held his granddaughter for the first time, he whispered into her tiny ear, "You don't know it yet, little one, but you were born into a miracle." Back at the house that evening, the entire family sat on the balcony. Sophia, Oina, baby Amarachi, Monica, Jacob, and little Williams, now a bubbly toddler, chasing butterflies across the garden with a net in one hand and a tablet in the other. Monica sipped tea, watching them from the glass doors. The sight before her, the laughter, the light, the peace, was everything she had once begged God for. "I can't believe this is my life," she said softly. Jacob wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "I can't," he said, "because everything good starts with belief." Just then, Monica's phone buzzed on the table. She picked it up and read the email subject line aloud. "Ministry of Science and Technology, 20th Anniversary Celebration. MTech to receive Lifetime Impact Award." Her voice caught slightly. "They're giving us an award." Jacob smiled. "You deserve it." She shook her head gently. "No, we do." The letter had been sitting there for over 2 years. It was tucked deep within an old folder in Monica's father's study, hidden behind a loose panel in the bottom drawer of his desk. She hadn't meant to find it. She was only clearing out space for archive files when her fingers grazed the uneven surface. Curious, she had pried it loose and discovered the envelope marked in her father's heavy handwriting. "For Monica, open when you're ready." And now here she was. The rain tapped gently against the tall windows of their echoey mansion. The fireplace crackled softly behind her. Upstairs, the twins were fast asleep, and Jacob had taken Williams out for a rare father-son dinner. Monica sat alone in the study, barefoot, wrapped in a wool shawl, the letter in her hands. Her heart thudded like a drum. She had lived through betrayal. She had faced exile from society and clawed her way back to respect. She had built an empire from ashes, found love in the unlikeliest place, and led a family into generational legacy. But this was something else. She broke the seal. The scent of old cologne and dust rose from the page. "My dearest Monica, if you are reading this, then I am no longer beside you. And my prayer is that you are safe, strong, and surrounded by people who love you, not those who only loved your wealth." She swallowed. "I raised you the best I could. After your mother passed, you became my whole world. But there are truths I never had the strength to tell you while I was alive. Truths about the company, about your inheritance, about a man I once made a deal with." She frowned. "Before I became the CEO of Donald Group, I had nothing, just ambition and an idea. A man, Jide Obesai, gave me the capital I needed. We signed a private agreement. In exchange for funding the first oil rig, I gave him 35% of the company, kept silent, hidden, untraceable. His enemies were powerful, and exposing him could have destroyed everything." Monica's pulse quickened. "He left Nigeria and went underground. But before I passed, he reached out to me again. He had returned, with a new name, a quiet life. He said he no longer wanted the shares for himself, but for his son. His only son. She stopped reading. Her hands trembled. She already knew where this was going. Monica, that son, is Jerry. She gasped. No, no, it couldn't be. Jerry, her husband, the father of her twins, the man who had stood beside her in courtrooms, in hospital rooms, in boardrooms. The letter continued. He was adopted by the Obasai family after Jide disappeared. Jide never told him the truth. He wanted to protect him from old enemies. But I promised to honor our deal. And now, I'm asking you, when the time comes, give Jerry his rightful share. Let love guide your decision, not fear or control. There was a final line, scribbled shakily at the bottom. He is his father's son, and if you trust Jide's blood, you can trust the man beside you. Your father, Chief Donald Andrew. Monica set the letter down and closed her eyes. Everything made sense now. Jerry's sharp instincts, his moral compass, his uncanny understanding of legacy. He hadn't married into this world. He had been born for it. She had to tell him. An hour later, Jerry walked into the study, rain dripping from his coat. He saw her sitting there, pale and quiet, the letter unfolded on the desk. What is it? He asked gently. She looked up. Sit. He did. She handed him the letter. Watched him read it silently. Watched his eyes widen, then still. Watched him stand slowly, move to the window, rub his jaw. My father, he murmured. He never said a word. Monica nodded. I believe that. He turned back to her. So what does this mean? It means, she said calmly, that 35% of Donald Group belongs to you. He stared at her. And you're okay with that? She stood and walked over to him. I married you before I ever knew this. I trusted you before I understood why I did. And now I see that you were never a stranger. You were the missing piece. They held each other for a long time. But the world doesn't let peace linger forever. The next morning, Monica's assistant rushed into her office, panic on her face. Ma'am, this came in anonymously. Legal flagged it. She handed Monica a file. Across the top, scrawled in red ink, Olivia George. Monica's blood ran cold. Inside was a flash drive, a short letter, and a photograph, taken just that morning, of her twin daughters playing in the garden. She read the note aloud. If you want to protect your daughters, meet me. Alone. Midnight. Lecky waterfront. No police. No husband. Or the world gets everything. Your father's secrets. Your husband's inheritance. Your fall. Jacob walked in just in time to see the final words. He grabbed the photo. She's watching us. Monica's voice was ice. We don't call the police. Jerry blinked. Monica. No. If she's desperate, any sudden move could make her reckless. His jaw tensed. Then I'm coming with you. She shook her head. She said alone. That's how this ends. On my terms. And so, that night, Monica returned to the place where George once proposed his empire of lies. The same waterfront where she had buried her pain in silence. She arrived at midnight, dressed in black, her voice recorder hidden in her pocket. Olivia was already waiting, standing beneath a broken lamppost, long braids down one shoulder, sunglasses on even in the dark. Well, Olivia said with a smirk. The Queen arrives. You sent me pictures of my children, Monica said coldly. What do you want? Simple. $10 million. And I disappear. You won't disappear, Monica replied. You'll crawl back with more threats. Olivia stepped closer. You took everything from me. That mansion. That power. I was his wife. You were his pawn, Monica said sharply. Just like I was. Only difference? I got out. Olivia's eyes flared. She reached into her purse. Monica didn't flinch. Then came the calm voice from the shadows. Drop it. Jerry stepped out from the dark, holding a radio. Behind him, armed security moved silently into position. Red dots lit Olivia's chest. She froze. You lied, she hissed at Monica. No, Monica said. I just came prepared. Olivia's hand trembled. Then she screamed, I'll end this now. She raised the weapon. But before a single shot rang out, a tranquilizer dart hit her shoulder. She staggered, dropped. Security rushed in. Monica exhaled slowly, her heart pounding. Jerry walked to her and took her hand. I had to come. I'm glad you did. 2 days later, Olivia was formally charged with blackmail, armed threat, and conspiracy to endanger minors. The scandal was buried quietly, but Monica knew the cost of exposure was always one step away. She returned home, sat in her children's room, and watched them sleep. Jacob entered behind her. "She won't come back," he said. "But someone else will," Monica whispered. He nodded. "Then we'll be ready." 2 weeks after Olivia's arrest, the noise had settled, but the echoes remained. The house had returned to calm, at least on the surface. The twins giggled in the garden again. Williams resumed his wild toddler adventures, and Monica and Jerry began sleeping without phones under their pillows. But Monica knew better than to trust the quiet. Power always attracted vultures. The world might forget Olivia. Monica never would. She sat across from Amara at the cafe section of the second Amara's Mart location. The place bustled, uniformed staff, busy registers, a bakery that filled the air with cinnamon and sugar. Monica sipped her coffee slowly. "She's facing court next month," she said, stirring her spoon. 3 counts: extortion, armed threat, and endangerment of minors. Amara nodded solemnly. She never stood a chance. People like her don't understand the difference between greed and strategy. Or the weight of consequences, Monica added. There was a short pause. Then Amara leaned in, smiling. "Speaking of strategy, I have some news." Monica raised an eyebrow. Amara slid an envelope across the table. Inside were legal documents and a title deed. "We're opening the 3rd branch," Amara said. "Maxwell and I, land's already secured in Ape. We're calling it Amara's Express." Monica's face lit up with pride. "You're building an empire," she said. Amara shrugged. "You started it. I'm just copying the blueprint." They laughed quietly. That night, Monica returned home to a quiet house. The kind of quiet she used to fear. Now it felt earned. She stepped into the nursery. Jerry lay on the floor, a twin in each arm. Justina gnawed on his shirt collar. Juliana tried to braid his hair with toy clips. "Mommy's here," Jerry whispered when he saw her. Monica joined them on the floor, scooping the girls into her lap. They wriggled and giggled. She leaned back and sighed deeply. "I used to wonder if we'd ever have a night like this," she said. "No headlines. No threats. Just peace." Jerry kissed her cheek. "We earned it." She looked around the room, glowing with soft light and baby clutter and warm love. "We're not just rich," she said softly. "We're whole." 9 months later, the twins turned 3. The mansion's garden bloomed in pink and white balloons. Jazz musicians played beneath silk canopies. Children screamed with joy, racing through inflatable castles. Waiters balanced trays of samosas and cupcakes. Monica wore a floral jumpsuit. Jerry, a sky blue agbada. Williams ran in circles around his sisters, waving a bubble wand. Guests included politicians, business leaders, and old friends. But no press. This wasn't a performance. It was a celebration. As Monica helped Justina open a present, she felt a tap on her shoulder. It was Amara. "You've got company," she said quietly. Monica turned and saw an older man standing near the koi pond. Gray-haired, dressed in a dark blue suit, holding a slim leather folder. He bowed slightly. "Mrs. Williams, my name is Mr. Ease. I represent a private estate in Port Harcourt. May I speak to you?" She nodded. He opened the folder. This letter was discovered during a recent archive restoration at an old federal land office. "It pertains to your father, Chief Donald Andrew." Her body stiffened. Mr. Ease handed over the document, a handwritten letter, signed, dated 26 years ago. Monica read silently. It was a confession. Her father had once attempted to acquire oil-rich land in the Niger Delta through under-the-table means. The deal had collapsed, but the scandal had been buried with bribes. The man who helped him cover it up was later framed and jailed. His name was Afani Aniki, and he had a daughter. Monica dropped the letter. She knew that name. Aniki was Olivia's maiden name. The blood drained from her face. Jerry stepped forward. "What is it?" She looked up at him. She wasn't just a side story, Monica said. Olivia. She was revenge. The man who took the fall for her father was her father, and his daughter grew up in the shadows, believing the Donalds destroyed her family. Maybe they did. Jerry looked at the folder. "This changes everything." "No," Monica said slowly. "It explains everything." She exhaled. The silence stretched. Then she stood tall. "I want the entire Aniki case reopened. I want his record cleared." Jerry stared. "Are you sure? He paid for a crime he didn't commit. It's our debt now." Over the next month, Monica led a quiet legal campaign, funding pro bono attorneys, lobbying the Ministry of Justice, and working with old contacts to unearth sealed files. The media caught wind eventually, But by then, Monica had full control of the narrative. She issued one statement. Justice delayed is not justice denied. My father built an empire, but in the process, a man lost everything. We're here to restore his name and his family's dignity. The backlash was minimal. The praise, overwhelming. On the day of the public hearing, Olivia was granted supervised parole to attend. She arrived in handcuffs, gaunt, tired, but alert. Monica stood beside her. In court, the judge overturned the original conviction of Afanianiki. The record was wiped. All legal rights restored. Olivia wept. Not for herself, for him. Outside the courthouse, Monica turned to her. You were never the enemy, she said quietly. You were the consequence. Olivia nodded, broken. I just wanted someone to pay. They already did, Monica replied. But now we fix what we can. Olivia was later transferred to a rehabilitation facility. She never resurfaced in the press again. That night, Monica sat in the garden with Jerry, their children sleeping peacefully inside. She held his hand. Do you think we've finally closed the chapter? She asked. Jerry looked at the stars. No, I think we just turned the page. Years passed. M-Tech evolved into a global force, launching a Pan-African data backbone in collaboration with 3 governments. Amara's Mart expanded to 42 branches nationwide. Amara herself became a national speaker for women in business. Sophia and Oina moved to Cape Town for a medical fellowship, raising Amarachi as a bright, compassionate firecracker. And Monica? She returned to the one thing that had saved her in the beginning. She started writing. Her first memoir, The Woman Who Knelt, became a bestseller in 14 countries. It wasn't about wealth. It wasn't about business. It was about love, about pain, about starting again. And in the final line of the book, she wrote, I knelt once to offer love. The world laughed. But today, the world kneels to the power of restoration. And I have nothing left to prove. She closed the laptop, looked out the window, and smiled.